As a marketer, you're going to be tasked with providing different marketing strategies, different marketing campaigns, and different marketing ideas. The problem is, since marketing is a very subjective-based discipline, you're probably going to get a lot of questions and even get opinions on how to do marketing. But let me show you different ways to help you further validate your strategies and ideas by doing research, or more specifically, doing research for marketers. The discipline of market research does entail a lot of different responsibilities, and it's a pretty broad term. So when we talk about market research, the use case is going to be for marketers, since this is a marketing channel. So keep that in mind moving forward. When we talk about researching for marketers, there's really three main ways of doing that. That's through market research, user research, and competitor research or competitor analysis. Let's touch on what those each mean. First is market research. That's the process of you being able to understand the conditions of the market that you're in, from understanding what your customers think about your product, understanding the economics of the supply and demand chain of what you're selling, being able to also research and understand how people view your industry. Part of that includes user research and competitor analysis. Market research is giving you more of an overview, understanding where your business is placed within the marketplace or the economy. When we talk about user research, this is more granular in a sense that we're trying to understand data from individuals or people. And there's two forms of user research. There is internal user research and external. When we talk about internal, that means data that you've owned and that you acquire. And when we talk about external, that is data that's provided from a third party. That could be a consulting firm, that could be from an agency or a software that acquires data from cohorts of audiences provided back to you. User research is really helpful for you understanding the perspective of the people that you're trying to essentially sell or market to. And then finally, competitor analysis. This is really you understanding as a business how you compare to other businesses within your industry, within your vertical. That could mean understanding what's your market share within that vertical. It could mean understanding the go-to-market strategy of your competitors. What type of advertising campaigns do they use? Which channels are they using? Are they more focused on organic content or paid campaigns, including their pricing strategies and their messaging as a brand or messaging in terms of their products? So let me show you 8 practical ways on how to do research as a marketer, starting with SimilarWeb. So SimilarWeb's been around for a couple of years, but it's picking up in traction more recently. And I think that's because they're starting to do a lot of outreach to advertising or marketing agencies. But if you are a solo marketer, let's say you're a solo marketing consultant, you can still utilize it. It essentially helps you understand how you and your competitors compare in terms of digital metrics like website traffic sources, audience overlap, as well as understanding the type of ads that they're using and how much their projected spend is at a channel level. SimilarWeb has a free Chrome extension that helps you do some of those for free, and I'll leave the link below if you're interested in using that. Next is social media analytics. While the type of data you can acquire from these social media platforms are very top line, and when we talk about top line, they're metrics that don't necessarily always correlate to revenue or growth. That could mean a follow, that could mean a post like, or a comment or a share. But if you start to get creative with how you understand and see the data, there's actually a lot of use cases for it. Use case number 1 could be you looking at your profile, looking at seeing which posts have the most engagement. So let's say you're in Instagram, you realize that one of your posts has a lot of shares or comments, and within that post, you might be talking about a specific product feature. It might be a user-generated content, it could be from a social media influencer, and that's going to help you dictate strategies, including what types of contents that your audience gravitates towards to, or what product feature might be something you might want to highlight as a company, so something you can liaise with your product marketing team, or just as an insight piece into understanding what type of content you might want to repurpose moving forward. Another use case with social media analytics is looking at your followers and potentially going really granular and going to their profiles and seeing what type of profiles they follow. That gives you an idea of what those users gravitate towards to. You might potentially discover competitors during that process. And it's very time intensive, obviously, but I think it's worth doing if you're doing market research. Next is web and app analytics. Now, this is more of an internal market research piece, and I say internal because it's data that you have and you own and that you have permission to use. It's more validated in the sense that it's usually either a prospect or an actual customer that you've already acquired. So when we talk about web and app analytics, there's really a lot of angles we can extract from the data that we get, because there's lots of data from those platforms, whether that's a Google Analytics 4 or an Apps Flyer, or even a tool like Segment, which is more for product analytics. Use case number one could be what products have been selling the most over it back in Q1 or in Q2. What's our seasonal peak? When do we get the most revenue from? What's our average order value? Another use case could be in the process, where do users usually drop off? Within lifecycle marketing, you might want to understand the user lifetime value of people that buy products from you. So from the time they purchase, when do they drop off? Is it day 12? Is it day 14? Is it day 25? And that could be an indicator into when you should have your nurturing emails be sent out to. And then finally, another use case could be demographics. So understanding your users from their age, where they're coming from, what topics are they interested in. Let's say you're a B2B company. You might realize that your sales teams, they're selling to people over the age of 30, but then the data that you have within your analytics software is telling you that your customers are actually between the ages of 25 and 35. And that's a huge insight, especially if you're account-based marketing. That might be an indicator into how you want to update your account-based marketing strategy. Next is SEO Insights tool. Now, there's lots of tools out there. The one I'll mention here is SEMrush or Semrush. I've used them previously, although they are quite expensive. Semrush can help you very close to SimilarWeb in a sense that there's a lot of product features, and depending on how you want to use it, you've got an array of options there. So it's a marketer's dream from many points of view. It can help you understand which topics are people searching for, understanding what are the rankings you get for specific keywords for you and your competitors. On the SEO side, you're able to audit your website. So there's a technical audit aspect to Semrush, so you can better understand issues within specific landing pages. On the paid advertising front, you're able to see the ads that your competitors are using. So it's very useful from a competitor analysis point of view as well, although there are free tools out there for that specific use case, which I will talk about in a couple of seconds. If you're looking for free software, I would also recommend Google Search Console, albeit you do have to integrate it with your website. But Google Search Console can give you very top-line insights. Use case number one is understanding which search terms are you ranking for organically as a website. You could use that data to inform what type of content marketing you should start to double down on. Or you could use that data to understand where to go more aggressive or not aggressive within your paid search marketing campaigns. Use case number two is understanding which landing pages are getting you the most traffic. Now, obviously, you want to filter it so it excludes very top of funnel web pages like your homepage, for example. You want to preferably filter it by your blog or articles page, assuming you're the type of business that works on your SEO through blogs. And then finally, Google Search Console helps you understand which devices are your users coming from. That could be either their phones, tablet, or desktop. You might realize that 70% of your audiences are coming from a mobile phone. And that could be an insight into understanding. Maybe let's take a look at what the user experience is on mobile phones. Is it smooth? Are there issues happening? And that is usually a blind spot that a lot of marketers tend to not try out. Next is Google Trends, Google Keyword Planner, and organic searches. Google Trends helps you understand the increase or decrease in an intent for a specific keyword or phrase. What's also great about the platform is that it's able to help you find related queries and topics, and I'd recommend subscribing to their daily newsletter, link below if you're interested, which essentially gives you a daily update on what people are searching for and what searches or keywords are having the most traction. That's more of a broader market research piece, but it might be useful for you. Let's also talk about Google Keyword Planner. So this is a great way for you to understand what's the volume of searches for that specific keyword on a monthly basis. You can even filter it by a specific period of time. Google Keyword Planner can also make you understand the increase in intent over a 3-month period. This is a bit of a hidden secret with Google Keyword Planner, that it's actually great for SEO purposes, because you can type in a couple of keywords and Google Keyword Planner can recommend related keywords for that keyword. And then finally, I still think this is a very underrated way of doing research for any specific purpose, but it's be in the mindset of your ideal customers and think about what type of keywords or phrases are they going to use in searches, whether that's in Google or that's in Microsoft Search if you're using that platform. And you can embody their mind frame, start to think about what type of questions they might ask, what type of product comparisons they might do, or even business comparisons, or even searching for generic keywords that relate to your business. You might be surprised with the type of data and possible insights you can acquire from it. I think just make sure that you go into it with a specific question in mind, because Google's going to give you a lot of data and you can get overwhelmed quite easily. All right, next is ads transparency. So this is a way for you to understand the type of ad copy and creatives your competitors are using. So the two biggest platforms you can use for this comes from the two biggest ad networks there are, including Google and Facebook. On the Google side, it's called Google Ads Transparency. Once you type in the brand name that you want to understand and see the ads for, you can get to see their paid search campaigns, their YouTube videos, even their display ads. On the Facebook side, it's called Facebook Ads Transparency. So if you type in their brand name, assuming they have a Facebook page, you're able to see all their creative ads in different formats. And I will link those platforms below if you're interested in trialing them out. And the good thing is that they're free. Next is arguably one of my favorite ways to do research, because it's data that is validated, because it comes from a person. There's more of a humanized aspect to it, and it's user research. It's very likely going to be deployed as a user survey. There's really two ways of deploying user research. It could be internal, which is data that you're using, or external, which is data that comes from a third-party source. That could come from a consulting firm like McKinsey or Gartner. It could also come from software companies or agencies that relate to your business, and they can deploy surveys for those users and they send that data back to you. Now let's focus on internal user research, because this is data that's a bit more validated, because they're either prospects, leads, or actual customers. It's a bit closer to the truth than external third-party data. So I would recommend to always have a specific question or narrative in mind coming into it. You want to decide, what am I trying to get out of this research? And obviously you deploy your questions in a way that you have a mixture of both qualitative and quantitative questions. When we talk about qualitative questions and answers, the analogy that I like to use, it's like a telescope. The perspective you get from your customers are very broad. And when we talk about qualitative questions and answers, it's like a microscope. It's very zoomed in and specific with the type of data that you get. Obviously, it's very numbers based. And whenever you're trying to do research or you're trying to acquire data, you want to make sure that you have full spectrum of both a broad perspective and a more granular perspective, because you're trying to get as close to the truth as possible. Finally, once you've gone through your marketing career and you've been a marketer for several years, you might not always necessarily need to do some of the strategies I've recommended in the video. You might want to start using your own experience and knowledge in the field and brainstorm. A great way for you to deploy market research is what we call a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is understanding the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of your business. Use case, let's imagine you're a business intelligence software selling to B2B companies. Next, we're going to deploy this SWOT analysis as a table. So you can see column 1 or column A, strengths. It could be that your software is very user-friendly. If companies subscribe, they might get a free account manager in terms of onboarding. Weaknesses, limited brand recognition. Maybe you're not as well known yet. Opportunities, it's very high in demand. It could be a very high in demand software solution. There's a lot of expansion opportunities or partnership opportunities. And then finally, threats, artificial intelligence, data security, and privacy limitations. So as mentioned at the beginning of the video, the whole point of doing research, whether that's a more broad market research piece or user research or competitor analysis, is to help you further validate your ideas and your strategies as a marketer, because it's very likely you will be challenged by your teams or your stakeholders. And if you have data and insights to help you, to essentially back you up in those instances, it really gives you the data and the insights you need to further validate or prove to your stakeholders the opportunity within the ideas that you have. That could be a marketing campaign, a content piece, or a specific go-to-market strategy, because now you've got data to essentially back you up. But what you want to keep in mind with data is that, one, data is never 100% true. Second is that data is always biased depending on the perspective that you're taking. So don't be afraid to challenge the data that you see. Still have the perspective of what you may think is right or wrong. That's the job of a marketer. You want to have some sense of creativity during this approach, and you essentially mix the data and your creativity to preferably have a more holistic point of view. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, I urge you to subscribe and join the Futurist Marketers newsletter linked below. Till next time, peace.